All right, hi everybody. I'm going to quickly walk you through how you use SPSS to do your homework that you have that's due instead of meeting for class on Monday. So first things first, open up your Practice SPSS database out of Blackboard, or you might have it saved onto your computer. Just a review, this is your variable view. In the variable view, you can see all of the variables names that show up in the data view. More importantly though, you can see what they're labeled so that these names actually make sense. These names over here mean almost nothing if you're just looking at them. Also remember the values columns are important because groups will be numbered 1, 2, or 3. This is where you figure out what 1, 2, and 3 mean. So over here you'll see 1, 2, and 3 and what those values are. Those values will also be used on the output page when you run different statistics with this. So you can see also here recoded into age has 4 different groups. Group number 1's age 6, 7, and 8, and 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So that will be useful in a different one of our homework assignments. Okay, so for your task for this week, the first one asks you to compute a frequency calculation to address research question 1 above. Create a frequency table to display your findings. So of the 3 groups of students in this study, which group had the most participants and which group had the fewest? So we're looking at this group variable here. So in order to figure that out, we need to go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. We want to know about the disability group. That's our variable for this question. We do want frequency tables. The statistics, we don't need any of those for this question. And so we can tell it okay, and it's going to process that in our output. So we can see here that we had 502 in this group, 275, 405, and 1182 total. So as you're doing this, make sure you get those same numbers. All right, task number 2 tells you to compute the mean and standard deviation for each variable in research question number 2. So we're headed back to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. We're no longer looking at groups. We're now looking at the Wechsler full scale, the verbal IQ, and the performance IQ. And we don't need frequency counts. And we need the mean and standard deviation. And we tell it okay, it's going to add it right below that chart that we just had, so we now have all of our means and all of our standard deviations. The next task tells you to compute the skewness and kurtosis for each of the variables in research question 3. So back to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies. We still don't need frequency tables. Same variables. The statistics, we no longer need mean and standard deviation, but we do need skewness and kurtosis. I'm going to push continue and OK. And it's going to pop out this table here. Now remember that you have to use the additional, give me just a second, the additional skewness and kurtosis calculator. And plug these numbers into it. So our first variable here is the Wechsler full scale, so we'll do -2, -0.279, and 0.071. And then for kurtosis, we have 0.212 and 0.142. We'll see that our skewness is outside the range of normality, but our kurtosis is within the range of normality. So you'll need to do that for the other 2 variables. And these numbers here that are computed are the numbers that you report for the skewness and kurtosis of these variables. All right, so step number 4 says to compute the mean and standard deviation grouped by gender for each of these variables. So we need to come back to SPSS, and we'll need to actually split this data up into groups. So we'll say data, split file. We need to split it up by groups. So we need to compare groups by, by gender. Compare groups by gender. Tell it okay. Your output's going to tell you that it sorted it by gender, and then it split the file by gender. Now when we analyze, and get the mean and standard deviation, it's going to come out grouped by gender. So we've got boys and girls, their means and standard deviations. So you'll use these to report as for research questions 4 and 5. And then for research question 6, it asks you to describe how their scores compare. Remember that we cannot make inferences about one being better than the other because we haven't run inferential statistics to make sure that that is accurate. Instead, we can say things like the mean of one group was higher for the mean of another group, or we could say for one group the highest mean was on a certain subscale, but for the other group the highest mean was on a different subscale. So you can say higher and lower, but you cannot say better or worse. No judgment statements. All right, so what you will need to do then is actually write a paper that has all of this in it using the model text that I showed you guys. Let me see if I can get it pulled up here. Yeah. So the model descriptive statistics write-up looks like this. I told you it was written by another professor, and that you can follow his guidance here, but this is not something that you should take word for word. So you should take what he does and then turn it into your own words. I said that you can leave research question as a level 2 heading and results as a level 1 heading. You do not need to write anything under this title, even though many of you guys, I made that comment on your APA paper. You don't need to put anything between these two titles, because in a normal report you would have information in here, and this would actually be a level 1 heading in a normal report, and so we're going to format it like it's going inside of a full-length report. Also notice that we've got a little n because this is talking about a subgroup. That mean is a capitalized M that's italicized. Notice there is a space between the M and the equal sign and the number. Other things you should notice, on Mabuzzi and Daniel is the citation you'll use when you refer to skewness and kurtosis. That's there for you, and it's also here in your references. Pay close attention to how he formats his tables here. It is important that you don't just copy and paste them out of SPSS because they are not in APA format. It is important that you use APA format. If you are unfamiliar with APA format for tables, refer to Purdue OWL or your APA handbook. And then notice here that he copied in all of the output from SPSS, and so he's got all of his tables here. Please do that for me so that I can check and make sure that all of your output was the same as my output, and that we didn't have any errors that we need to go over when I come back. If you have questions, as always, you can call me. My office phone will be rolling over to my cell phone, although I don't encourage a phone call if it's not an absolute emergency. Email me is probably the best way to get me while I'm out and about in Vegas. I will be responding to emails, maybe not quite as quickly as I normally do though. All right, you guys, have a good one. Bye.